Hi again. Thank you, Gracia, and thank you, Jens, for your inspiring presentation. We are crossing now the equator of our conference, and we are going to move to a trending topic, digitization, and a horizontal topic that affects us all. I think it's we might think of something positive that has happened during this pandemic is the technological push and how it has allowed economy somehow to continue, but also has allowed us to be in touch, to be in contact with our colleagues, with the friends, with the people we love. I would like to introduce you now to our next three panelists. They are going to share with us some opportunities and good practices that can inspire the action of public administrations in the area of digitization. We have with us Mr. Luis Viegas Cardoso. He's a senior expert on digital technology and innovation at the advisory service at the President of the European Commission. We also have with us Ursula Rosenwiesler, Head of Department for Strategic Performance Management and Public Sector Innovation of the Austrian Federal Ministry for Arts, Culture, Civil Service and Sports. And last but not least, Ms. Elisa Roller, Head of Unit in the Recovery and Resilience Task Force in the Secretariat General of the European Commission as she recovered. So, Mr. Viegas, we will start with you. The floor is yours.
Hi, good morning, Izan, and good morning to all participants. It's a great honor to be here with you celebrating the 40 years of the European Institute of Public Administration. I was asked to speak this morning about digital transformation of the public sectors, and I'll focus my time precisely around the theme of digitalization and the importance of it for Europe's future. Three areas of digital transformation that are key for the public sector. The first one is about how technology and innovation are changing. Innovation toolbox is changing as innovation in the industrial area is different from innovation in the digital area. In the post-war industrial age, innovation typically took place in incremental steps. Dedicated research teams, typically in long-established companies, would develop new products and services. The innovation itself often consisted of an improvement or enhancement to an existing product or service which was known by incremental innovation. Today, while incremental innovation is still valid, disruptive innovation has become the new norm of success. Often referred to as knowledge based capital, intangible assets have become the key ingredients of modern day corporate success, such as design, software, data, business model, and organizational innovation, just to name a few. Copyright and links to entrepreneurial universities that facilitate knowledge transfer are also recognized as significant. In fact, today's innovation doesn't rely on well developed industrial infrastructures, power plants, water supply, well connected transport, and communication networks, but rather more on top notch digital infrastructure, broadband, 5G, supercomputational power, large scale cloud computing facilities, among others. For example, many of Europe's largest tech companies were born in Sweden. The country is the second tech hub in the world on a per capita basis, producing $6.3 billion companies per million people compared to Silicon Valley's 8.1. In fact, early and substantial public investments in digital infrastructure are cited as one of the key reasons for this outcome. Sweden's average internet speed today is the third highest in the world and the fourth in superfast broadband. Another example is South Korea, that was just named most innovative country in the world by the Bloomberg Index. Recently, they tested 5G networks in automated bases during the Winter Olympics. So governments deploying state-of-the-art digital infrastructures, they really contribute to the digitalization of the countries itself, also advancing the digitalization of public and private sector. Secondly, if the industrial age was about standardization, the digital age is about customization. Before, companies wanted to develop as much product as possible with the lowest price and always looking at the same model, like the typical 4T manufacturing approach. But today, today companies need to adapt to customers and develop a user centricity approach. In fact, the extensive data trails that people leave online and offline are facilitating this trend, with more and more companies across sectors able to anticipate customers' expectations with precision. Personalization and the ability to match supply and demand, and using technology to deliver products and services effectively and rapidly in a user centricity approach are key. Now, companies and public sector as well want existing business and do it in a customized way by offering an added value service to the clients that usually are happier than before. However, the same should occur in governmental bodies and public administrations that need to offer tailor-made services to citizens. Also, in public domains, areas where governments have a high stake, customization should be the cornerstone of future public services. For example, Singapore is using personalizing classroom learning through the use of data analytics. With the average primary school class consisting of up to 40 pupils, teachers have typically found it hard to personalize learning for each individual student. In fact, the government of Singapore is exploring innovative use of emerging technologies to enrich the learning experience and enhance the quality of teaching, enabling everyone to achieve their full potential. A key feature includes personalized learning using analytics, whereby data relating to the student on school attendance, test results, participation in class, as well as self assessments and teacher assessments, is gathered and combined to draw out crucial insights into students' learning strengths and difficulties. The goal is to help teachers build better pedagogical programs, empower students to take an active part in their learning, target at risk student populations through personalized interventions, and access factors affecting completion and student success. Thirdly, and my last point, I would like to bring the concept of the data economy and the need for public entities to enter into the data revolution. Also, one very important change for public administrations is the use and reuse of public sector data, something that governments and public entities really need to catch up. In fact, data in particular is emerging as the key resource for and enable of innovation. So why not making it also as an enabler to modernize the public sector? Data analytics allow public and private organizations to quickly grasp patterns in user preference and problems, thereby enabling more informed decision making and, if necessary, targeted interventions that improve performance and productivity for citizens. Digitizing public services is also critical to Europe's competitiveness and long term prosperity. The quality and the efficiency of the public sector and the services it provides are inextricably linked to the social and economic performance of a country. They also play a crucial role in development of citizens' human capital and thus their future prospects. The promise of a digital power government is thus the delivery of a more targeted, more efficient public service, both for businesses or citizens. In fact, the exponential rise in available data, along with the development of new computational tools, open new opportunities to improve policy design and delivery. Thanks to data analytics, it is now possible to identify those issues that need to be addressed, estimate their relevance, and stimulate the impact of proposed policies with an unprecedented level of accuracy. Valuable policy insights can stem from combining data sets that have not previously been brought together, underlining the crucial importance of linking data across policy areas, sectors, territories, and applications. For example, Estonia is developing its own concept of moving towards a digital society. Since declaring its independence in 1991, Estonia has embarked on an ambitious digital journey, placing technological investments at the center of its strategy to modernize and reshape public governance, simply people's life, and support business growth. In fact, in just 30 years, Estonia has become one of the world's most connected and technology advanced countries. In 1997, 97% of Estonian schools were online. In 2000, so more than 20 years ago, Estonia declared access to internet as a basic human right. E-voting was introduced in 2007, and since 2015, people across the world are able to apply to Estonia e-residency. So even if it is a small country, it's a large and a very strong startup community and a tech hub. Estonia has been leading the development and rollout of innovative solutions for the economy and society, such as intelligent transportation system or high-tech delivery robots. The country also uses blockchain and just recently is home to the only NATO accredited cyber defense center. Dear participants, and just to finalize, as technology is developing faster than projected, giving rise to a technology shift that has the potential to defy human control and surpass the intellectual activities of any human being, the development of even better technology could lead to an intelligent explosion. Europe can play an important role in the world scene, and public sectors are having the cornerstone decision on using its widely recognized values and principles to build global regulatory norms and frameworks that ensure a human-centric and ethical development of emerging technologies. Due to our privacy settings, much of them enforced by the public sector, but also respect for people's data, citizens feel safer and more reliable on using technologies in Europe than in other countries. So having the opportunity to speak today here at the European Institute of Public Administration to so many academic experts, professors and researchers, I would also like to challenge you to take part in our policy discussions around shaping Europe's digital future. We are now designing 2030 digital targets of Europe's digital decade, an initiative presented by President von der Leyen at the State of the Union address, and we'll be delighted to hear your views until the 9th of March. Your vision, your knowledge, and your contribution will be an added value for all policymakers. So I'd like to challenge you and to ask you to engage and participate in the future discussions about the modernization of the public sector administration. Thank you so much, Irene, and I pass you the floor. Thank you, Izan. Not have your background.
Thank you, Luis. Thank you for the call to action. I will invite people to Google Digital Targets 2030, and then you will be able to find the link. Otherwise, obviously, you can contact EIPA and we can help you if you are interested in participating. Many interesting tries by Luis. We could actually organize another event on the potential and the risks also on the data economy, how a user-centric approach can be also challenging in terms of data protection and freedom. But we will invite you for a follow-up conversation on this one. So we continue then with Ms. Ursula Rosenbichler. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. A wonderful good morning. Let me start by introducing myself. My name is Ursula Rosenbichler, and I work as head of the Department for Strategic Performance Management and Public Sector Innovation at the Austrian Federal Ministry for Arts, Culture, Civil Service and Sport. My department covers a broad spectrum of activities, mostly centered on cross-cutting issues. We developed strategies, instruments for quality and knowledge management. We work on monitoring, evaluation, and the further development of Austria's performance management. We foster open government and public participation, and we design and implement digitalization and innovation projects. To provide opportunities to experiment and learn, we create the GovLab Austria, Austria's first public sector innovation lab. All of these activities are seconded by our seminars, support and consultancy across the public sector. With our partners, we contribute to a large-scale cultural change process that enables the public sector to address the huge challenges of our times. Cultural change is the topic I want to talk about because for us, the digital transformation is most of all a cultural change process. Overall, we are quickly growing into a new paradigm where all actions of citizens and civil servants will be digitalized or at least will grow a digital twin. Without a doubt, data-driven decision-making, machine and deep learning are fruitful outlooks to the administrational work. But still, we don't know much about how these features can be utilized in an efficient and transparent way, and especially where to deploy them effectively. However, by now we already developed an understanding of opportunities that digital transformation brings to the public sector. One of those opportunities is in the area of efficiency and administrative reform. E-government could help us to optimize services for citizens and businesses. We could react way quicker to citizen inquiries, enable digital and thus faster and easier interactions between state, businesses and citizens. Data also gives us the opportunity to observe societal developments more closely. We could be more precise, efficient, and proactive in making forecasts concerning the labor market, sector-specific changes, or general economic development. Data enables us to have precise predictions on traffic volume, the general public health or energy distribution scheme, or so on. The opportunities of the digital transformation for the public sector are enormous. However, as big as the opportunities are, the questions seem to be even bigger. Digital transformation will only work if we know how to use it, and the ways we are going to use digital technologies will be very diverse. The public sector is one of the most diverse occupation fields we have in our society. So I think it is pretty safe to say that the digital transformation will unfold in many different variants. There will be no one-size-fits-all solution. Concluding the questions we have to answer is less if the public sector will be transformed, because it will, and how this transformation will be configured and shaped. Let me now give you some insights on how we try to shape this transformation process in the Austrian public sector. It is vital for efficient processes to be coordinated and to develop a basic framework for digital interactions. In order to ensure this, we do a lot of work on digital consolidation. In Austria, this work is done by several ministries, coordinated by a central task force. What do we mean by digital consolidation? What we are trying to do is assessing the needs and structure of different administrational departments. The goal is to provide a common framework and thus a digital starting point. How are we trying to achieve this? There is progress in the conception and further development of Austrian data centers. Those centers should be able to securely store relevant data and make it accessible to administrational units. In order to digitally transform, those will provide the public sector with the basic infrastructure. We also provide strategies on shared services. Once the strategy is finished, organizational units of the Austrian administration should profit from the same processes for the same services. We try to identify key technologies in an early stage. We are developing a basic knowledge system on which of the emerging technologies can be utilized, and especially for what purpose they could be used. Another example of our work on standardized and structured licenses model. Sharing the same quality and quantity of licenses and digital rights will enable to work smoothly on an operative level. It will avoid decentralized negotiations and therefore is probably less cost intensive. We already talked about the digital transformation as a cultural change process. Managing the transformation will be managing the expertise of the staff. For Austria, this will be an essential point, as 90,000 employees will be retired within the next 10 years. So we will have an intense onboarding process over the next decade. In order to do this probably, we will have to look at the digital qualifications an employee has to fulfill in the future. We are doing this by generating a typically life cycle model of the work on an average civil servant. The goal is to figure out which digital interactions, which use cases, and therefore which skills are necessary in a futuristic public sector. If we want to digitally transform public services, we have to create a framework to use the potential of the civil servants and support the development of those. Our academy is continuing to improve its educational offers for employees. By this, we want to provide a common development basis in order to achieve the goal of digital transformation, an efficient, effective, and citizen-oriented civil service. So far, I've spoken a lot about the present, but what's about the future? Currently, we do not know all the different applications of the digital world. Still, we have to lead the way by showing how it could be done. Concluding, my department decided to provide examples on how the digital transformation could be applied in the future. Currently, for example, I'm leading a project financed by the European Commission, which aims to foster futuristic innovative approaches in the administration in multiple ways. One of them is to provide agent-based models to simulate the effects of certain policy measures prior to actual implementation, and there is a lot more to come. As I've described in this address, the digital transformation of the public sector is a very promising but still challenging task. In order to ensure a sustainable digital transformation, we have to proactively steer the cultural and structural development of the administration system towards structural learning. From this point of view, the digital transformation will be especially a task of redesigning organizations in a way that it is able to reflect its own position, being able to process new information and successfully integrate a new information in its own structures. And this is what our department, but also administrational colleagues from around Europe are trying to do in our everyday work. This is what we have to do because without any doubt, the future of the public sector is a digital one. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that Austria is an example that high mountains are not an impossible obstacle for digitization of a country. Let's move to our last panelist, Ms. Roller. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and good morning to everyone. I'm not going to repeat a lot of the things that Luis was saying at the start of this panel as to the Commission's priorities with regards to the digital age. I think he's given a fantastic overview of where we are with in terms of public administrations and the digitalization. So I won't repeat many of the things that he said. As you all know, a major consequence of the pandemic has been that the digitalization of our society and economy has accelerated. And it's a trend that is here to stay. And we, as public administrations, whether at European level, national level, regional level, or local level, we will need to adapt accordingly. I think that we have a responsibility towards our citizens, and the pandemic has really brought this to light, that we need to digitalize the day-to-day experience of our citizens. We really need to have the reflex of saying things like, why can't we do this digitally? Whether it's getting an e-prescription from your doctor or avoiding the hassle from going from one administration to the other to get a paper, a signature, a stamp. I think these things have really, the pandemic in that respect has really brought those issues to light. I want to say a couple of words of where we are with digital public services in the EU, and the previous speaker has given many examples of how it works in her country. And I think although we see a lot of improvement, I think we still have a lot of work to do. We also see important differences between member states, and some of those examples, the good examples Luis was mentioning. But let me maybe focus on a couple of areas where we think a lot more work needs to be done. First of all, it's clear that demand for digital public services among citizens is growing. 67% of EU internet users who needed to submit forms to public authorities did so online in 2019. So we really need to look at the extent to which pre-filled forms by public administrations are available to citizens, and how we can improve that. The second thing is on the business side, we still have a lot more work to do on how public services are accessible to businesses on both sides of borders. So to what extent basic public services for businesses, such as starting a business or conducting regular business operations, are available online and across borders in other EU member states. A third challenge I think we need to be looking at is open data policy. So it's also about improving the data quality, the impact, and here we see a lot of differentiation across the different member states. So broadly speaking, these are, I think, the three main challenges that we have with regards to citizens, businesses, and the quality of our data and its transparency. Maybe also focus some more on some particular gaps that we see. First of all, and it's linked into some of the things I mentioned before, it's about the untapped potential of digital services. So we need to look at what digital service we offer, how much the uptake is, and who is excluded from that, whether it's older people who just don't know how to access, don't have access to a computer, or don't have the skills to do so, or don't understand how to do so. So we need to look not just at the provision of digital services, but also look at who has access, and more importantly, who doesn't. A second issue is the limited take-up of electronic IDs. Only 15% of national administrations use national electronic ID schemes. And this is also very limited in the cross-border context. It also makes it very, very difficult for more sensitive or authentication procedures to be available online. So for example, whether it's taxes or whether it's other sensitive issues, health, where citizens have a difficult time accessing, for example, their health records if there is no national electronic ID scheme. So in many ways, that is the precursor for making a lot of our our public services digitally available. The other thing is the issue of interoperability of data. What we see is a lot of differences, legal obstacles by the way data is used and how it's licensed. So data is often collected multiple times, but it remains unused. And this can be quite frustrating for citizens who are trying to, or businesses in particular, who are trying to access information and it is not available. And then finally, I think the pandemic has also highlighted the sectors where digitalization is really urgent. And that's perhaps justice, with court proceedings, which were not able to be carried out in person, healthcare, tax, and customs. So those are, I think, areas where we really need to prioritize, and obviously, that will have important positive spillovers in other areas. What is the EU doing about this? Well, first of all, we have the Next Generation EU, as I mentioned before, and as Luis also mentioned in his presentation, that we have the first of all, the Recovery and Resilience Facility, which is there to provide large-scale financial support to public investments and reforms of public administrations to ensure that they can meet the digital target, meet the digital challenges, and very much help the public administration become more modern and fit for purpose. I don't want to go into many of the details, but we are working very, very closely with our 27 member states to ensure that we meet the target of 20% of the investments to be channeled to digital reforms and investments. That means that 134 billion euros over the life cycle of the recovery facility will be allocated to the digital transition. And part of that, of course, will be allocated to ensuring that we improve digital skills, but also the digitalization of the public administration. What we're seeing in our discussions with member states is a strong priority by member states to ensure that digital that digitalization of the public sector is one of the priorities in their plans. What we can see from the draft plans that we have seen so far, at least 24 of the 27 member states have signaled their intention to use the recovery and resilience facility funds that are available for the digitalization of the public administration. So this is we very much welcome, and we hope that some of the challenges that I mentioned at the start of my presentation will be included. What are the most common reforms and investments that have been included so far? And like I said, this is just a preliminary overview, but maybe some of the things that some of these ideas may resonate. First, as I mentioned before, is the establishment of an electronic ID system, including the whole IT system around it. The second is the reforms to support the only one's principle, or the one-stop shop principle. So making sure that businesses and citizens, when they have to access services, they only need to do it once. So, for example, digitalizing paper records, introducing the principle of digital by default. That's the second most common reform that we see. The third is e-justice. So developing legal changes to enable court summons to be delivered online, allowing for example, video conferencing sessions for court, developing a single electronic system for court cases, an online portal, that sort of thing. The fourth, and this is not surprising, is e-health. So introducing legislative changes and investments to implement e-prescriptions, e-health, allowing citizens to access their health files online, etc. And finally is also the use of novel technologies such as artificial intelligence or cloud technology to improve predictive capacity and decision-making within the public sector. Needless to say, while we welcome very much the reforms and the ideas that member states are coming with in their recovery plans to digitalize public services, we do recognize that there are a number of challenges which will require careful attention. We have the challenge of cybersecurity. Citizens want to know that if their records are being digitalized, whether it's tax, customs, health, whatever, that their data will be safe, that it will not be hacked. So this is obviously a major challenge. But we do see that there is a lot of ambition there. There's a lot of positive energy going towards moving to a much more user-friendly and streamlined experience for both citizens and business, but also for public officials who I think will welcome having more streamlined systems to work with. With that, I think I've hopefully covered a lot of ground in terms of both some of the challenges that we're facing, but also how the European Union's Next Generation EU, and in particular the Recovery and Resilience Facility, will help promote the digitalization of public services. Thank you very much and have a good day.
Thank you, Elisa. For those of you who are following us, we had more than 700 registrations for the event today. If you want to know more about what is in those draft plans, you can check a preliminary comparative analysis that my colleagues Marco Priori and Marina Blachadimitropoulou have published in our website and in our social media. You could have a look and maybe it will inspire for some of the actions. We are a bit short of time, but I would like actually just to make a short question, same for the three of you. We've seen a strong funding commitment from the EU to support the digitization of the public sector at different levels, structural funds, recovery plans at national, regional levels, but also the Connecting Europe facility, even Horizon 2020. I think Ursula mentioned one example that they are doing in Austria at the pan-European level. The need is there, the money is there. So what do we need to see happen to see a futuristic public administration? We also heard some ideas from professors before: courage, creativity. What would you be, according to you, the key thing that we need to see happening for this futuristic public administration? Anyone dares to go ahead? Luis? We can't hear you, maybe you're muted.
Thank you so much. No, I think that two things that will be key to modernize the public administration. I think first is the change of mindset that we really need in both sides. So from citizens by itself, that is no more going to the traditional office spaces, but try to do everything online. But also from the public administration by itself. And I can give you this good example of Portugal, that through the last years we have been trying to digitalize public administration records, and every time that we deal with public administration, and it's really a big shift that we made. And the second main key change, I will say, that is also the cultural change that we have. So the culture that we have that also needs to change and to adapt and to be more modernized. And I also want to finalize just one thing. We also speak about, and that's why I brought a lot of things of data. But as you saw with Elisa or with Ursula remarks, we had very good examples in the public administrations, and we always need our data to modernize health records, or the e-justice, or even to bring the personalized education. So I wouldn't shy away of this mindset and cultural change that we need to bring to the table, and we shouldn't be afraid that the future of public administrations, probably they will be more efficient, they'll be more personalized, and we can probably give much more assistance to citizens that they are asking usually the public administrations.
Thank you. Ursula?
Yes, I want to give only a short answer. What we need is dynamics and endurance. We need both of them, and I think what we are trying to do and what we implement within the infrastructure of administration is a space where we can have experiments, because it's very, very difficult to implement things into the structures of administration, of public administration, then you do not know what's the impact of what we are implementing in the public administration. So what we want to have in Austria, what we will do is to experiment in a space, in a real labor, in a legal sandboxing space where we can try and look at the impact of the things we implement before we change the public administration as a whole.
Thank you. And Elisa?
I would agree with Ursula and Luis. I would add that whilst I think it's really important to use this opportunity that we've been presented, never waste a crisis, as they say, to move to further digitalization, I think we also, and Luis mentioned this in his remarks, we need to not forget the personal touch. And we've all had that wonderful experience where we call up the phone company or the electricity company, and we have a question about our bill, and we get the, please, 8 options, dial 1 if you want this and dial 3 if you want that. Or we go online and we're presented with 50 options of how we can access an answer to our question, and our question is not being answered. So I think the first thing that we need to remember is let's not forget that the personal touch. And sometimes citizens, businesses do want to speak to a human being, and they do want to have the opportunity to explain a problem or the background of a problem. So digitalization is great, but let's not forget that the human touch. The second, and that's a related point, I mentioned it in my remarks, is accessibility. We know that whether it's older people, disabled people, people who live in remote or rural areas, in poorer areas, just don't have access all the time to even a computer or a good internet connection. And it's great that in some countries, Luis mentioned Estonia, where it's now a basic human right, where you have high levels of connectivity. And that's almost a granted. But we have many regions and member states in Europe where that is not the case. And we need to remember that before we go for a full-fledged digitalization of public services, we need to make sure that the people have access as well as the skills necessary to do so, and to foresee a transition period if necessary. And that I close with that.
Thank you. I think it's a strong point of Europe to aim for a gender, social, green, inclusive innovation that doesn't leave anyone behind. I thank you very much for your words today, and I hope we keep in touch. And from EIPA, we are always happy to be a forum for exchange and learning from each other. Have a nice day, and we move to our next panel now.